Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Terry from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this will be the Combat Series episode number 58 for you guys today. Of course, this episode is going to be coming out on all four of our platforms: our Instagram account, our Facebook account, our YouTube account, and our Apple Podcast account. So let's go ahead and dive into the first segment of the Combat Series this week. I'll be sharing my fight prediction for this weekend's fight taking place in the world of the UFC between Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad. So we will be seeing in the main event of UFC 304 taking place in Manchester, England, Leon Edwards will defend his welterweight championship against Belal Muhammad in the main event of UFC 304. So these are my following storylines leading up to the main event of UFC 304. Is Leon Edwards ready to put together a fun performance in his home country of England in the main event of UFC 304? Now, don't get me wrong. Leon Edwards is obviously a top 10 pound for pound fighter in the UFC right now in the world of MMA, the reigning defending welterweight champion. Leon Edwards is a good fighter. However, his last two title defenses in the welterweight division against Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman last year were pretty boring performances in my opinion. And that's okay because not everybody is a knockout artist in the UFC. The same thing can be said in boxing. Everybody has their technical styles of what you like in combat sports, and there's nothing wrong with it. However, I have to say I am a little concerned with that, knowing the fact that Leon Edwards isn't a finisher in the UFC and Belal Muhammad isn't a finisher either. So their styles aren't something that make you ooh and ah after their performances. And that has me a little concerned for this being the main event of UFC 304. Because you see Leon Edwards plays it safe in his title defenses. Belal Muhammad kind of has a similar style. Plays it safe, does anything necessary to get the win, but won't take an unnecessary risk for the crowd's enjoyment. So I'm hoping that they both bring their A game, bring it everything that we want an exciting 5-round championship fight in the main event of UFC 304. But it's going to be interesting to see how Leon Edwards performs in England in his home country. Next storyline is Belal Muhammad ready for this title opportunity? He has waited a long time in the welterweight division to get this title opportunity. Currently, Belal Muhammad is on a 10-fight winning streak. And he's been calling out Leon Edwards for a welterweight title for a very long time. So this long-awaited opportunity for Belal Muhammad, who is 36 years of age, we don't know if he's unsuccessful at UFC 304, how many true opportunities he really has left at the welterweight championship, let alone a title shot in the UFC. So it's going to be interesting to see if Belal Muhammad can rise up to the occasion, prove that he is ready for this welterweight championship fight. And we're going to see how he performs on the big time stage, on the big time platform in the main event of a UFC pay-per-view. And last but not least, we definitely got to talk about this. Which fighter will prove that they are the better fighter? Because if you look back at the history books, if you've done your homework on these two respective fighters, they both, Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad, fought back in 2021 at the Apex Center in Vegas 3 years ago in 2021. The fight went down as a no contest between Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad, with the second round taking place underway very early in the second round. Leon Edwards did an accidental eye poke to Belal Muhammad. Belal Muhammad was obviously in a lot of pain. His eye was bleeding. He was very upset. And I think looking back at it, he looked very scared. And who wouldn't? I mean, the man was, you don't want to get poked in your eyeball, let alone you can't see. It hurts. Your eye is bleeding. I felt so bad for Belal Muhammad. And looking back at it, that looked really bad. And it was accidental. But that fight went down as a no contest. So we never really got the outcome of who was the better fighter between the two respective fighters. And I know that history is going to be left in the octagon. There's going to be a lot of fists flying, a lot of punches thrown, a lot of leg strikes landed due to the fact that this happened 3 years ago. Now it's coming full circle. We will find out who the better fighter is in the main event of UFC 304. But this is my tale of the tape for the fight. You have Belal Muhammad, who is currently has 23 wins, 3 losses to his resume. He has 5 victories coming away of knockout, 1 submission victory. Currently is the second-ranked welterweight in the UFC today. Currently on a 10-fight winning streak, stands at 5'11" and has a reach advantage of 72 inches. Then I'm looking at Leon Edwards, the champion. Currently has 22 wins, 3 losses to his resume, has 7 knockout victories, 3 submission victories. Currently on a 13-fight win streak. The reigning defending welterweight champion stands at 6'2" and has a reach advantage of 74 inches. So the height and the reach advantage goes to the champion, Leon Edwards. So these are my following game plans for these respective fighters to follow if they plan on walking out of Manchester, England with the welterweight championship. Starting off with the challenger, Belal Muhammad. I think Belal Muhammad has to win the striking battle. Win the grappling battle. Something, when you look back at the first fight between the respective fighters, Belal Muhammad actually didn't attempt for a takedown, from what I remember, or there wasn't really much grappling from two respective sides in the first fight. I think Belal Muhammad should try to win the grappling game in this fight. Belal Muhammad has actually been training with UFC legend, former lightweight champion, and Khabib. And I want to see that wrestling game come into factor against Leon Edwards in this fight at UFC 304. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the grappling game is going to be like for him. Secondly, Belal Muhammad has to fight coming forward. He is more comfortable in the octagon when he's walking his opponents down instead of fighting on his back feet, backpedaling, as you would say, when you're fighting backwards. And I would say when he fights coming forward, he creates puts more pressure on his opponents. When Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad fought the first time, it was vice versa. It was Leon Edwards walking down Belal Muhammad, making Leon Edwards was applying pressure to Belal Muhammad. And it made him a little uncomfortable at times because for majority of the fight, as short as it did last for 2 rounds, Belal Muhammad was on the opposite end of that, and he was the one getting walked down. So I think he has to return the favor this fight, be comfortable, and walk down Leon Edwards in this fight. And last but not least, Belal Muhammad has to use his smarts. He has to use his MMA IQ and not make mistakes. If you make a mistake against Leon Edwards, it could be lights out in the end of the fight. As Kamaru Usman, who was up in that championship fight back in 2022 for majority of the fight, was just 40 seconds away from retaining that welterweight championship. One mistake cost him when he got caught with a leg kick, got knocked out, got hit right in the temple, and that was it. So every move that Belal Muhammad has to be well calculated, and he cannot afford to make a mistake against Leon Edwards, who could quickly capitalize on that mistake and possibly end the fight as quick as possible. Now, game plans for the champion of Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards has to let his hands fly. Leon Edwards is a great striker, and he has lethal hooks, a right hook or a left hook. Those hooks are dangerous and lethal. And he had Belal Muhammad hurt in the first fight when he landed a few hooks, had him stumbled and dazed in that octagon. And I think if he lets his hands fly in this fight, in the main event of UFC 304, he has a good chance, a good opportunity of winning this fight and retaining the title. Next, Leon Edwards has to land leg kicks. Leon Edwards is one of the best leg strikers that on the UFC roster and that the UFC has to offer. I mean, I feel bad for them opponents when they take a calf kick by Leon Edwards. All you hear is every time, man. And then he can kick well in the sternum. He could kick well, obviously, in the head. It would be lights out if he flushes you right on the button. So Leon Edwards, I think if he gets them leg kicks going and makes Belal Muhammad a little intimidated by them leg kicks, slows him down, them calf kicks can slow you down. And I think if he does that, he has a good chance of winning this fight as well. Last but not least, I think it's important for Leon Edwards to control the pace of the fight against Belal Muhammad. Like I just said a few moments ago, Leon Edwards was the one walking down Belal Muhammad for a majority of the fight the first time. And I think if he gets active very quickly against Belal Muhammad, sets the tone, sets the pace of the fight, walks him down, and makes him fight going backwards, backpedaling for most of the fight, he's going to have a good chance of winning this fight. So, with that being said, I'm going to go with Leon Edwards to successfully retain his welterweight championship against Belal Muhammad by decision to successfully retain that welterweight championship in the main event of UFC 304. Now, fingers crossed that this is actually an exciting main event that UFC 304 has to offer, because both are known for Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad are both known for not having the most exciting styles in the octagon, and everybody can't be a knockout artist or a finisher in combat sports, but their styles are very similar in terms of being an exciting finisher in the UFC. So the history that they have had in the first fight with the accidental eye poke and the fight being called off early in the second round 3 years ago when they fought in the Apex Center back in 2021, I think there's some bad blood and some unfinished business that will be settled in the octagon. And I, fingers crossed, for an exciting fight in the main event, UFC 304. But I think Leon Edwards is going to use his experience, his striking ability, his leg striking ability to win this fight and defeat Belal Muhammad in the main event of UFC 304 by decision. And I think at times in this fight, Leon Edwards is going to capitalize on the small mistakes that Belal Muhammad will make. But we all know you cannot afford to make even the tiniest mistakes against Leon Edwards, because he can end the fight and put your lights out very quickly if you make the wrong mistake. But I think Leon Edwards is also going to use his experience. He's been in the big time moments before. He's defended this welterweight championship twice. I think he's going to use that experience against a very game Belal Muhammad, who's going to come up short, I do believe, in the main event of UFC 304. But that is my fight prediction for this weekend's fight in the UFC between Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad.